Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of videos about games and the people who played them. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Holly Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower!
Yes, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and of course, with me as always is Holly, and then the daughter after Holly, which is Clara. And today, I have to say, the show is going to get a bit geeky. I talk about an unusual topic, I suppose, every third show or so. And today we're going to talk about our namesake, and then a little bit farther into that, the Dice Tower. What is the Dice Tower? Well, let me show you an example of a couple Dice Towers. Here are two Dice Towers. This one is from Blue Panther Games. Comes as a wooden, basically a wooden slab in a sense to cut into pieces, and you have to glue it together yourself. And then DTV010 Dice Tower. You've seen another Dice Tower in the past, and that one I have. It works, it's functional, but it's a little bit more brittle, so I don't want to move it around too much. Also, there's a Lego Dice Tower that you can see, that you can make, and there's lots of Dice Towers. In fact, if you email me, you can find out how to get a Dice Boot, which is a clear Dice Tower, which has our logo printed on it. Really enjoy it. It's very easy to carry around. Got rid of all of them, so I don't have one myself to show you. But these are two. And basically, a Dice Tower works by taking some dice, and you simply drop them into the top of the tower, and then they fall into the bottom of the tray, and you can see what the results are. Some limitations, of course, mean in some Dice Towers, the dice may be too big to fit down. Some Dice Towers are basically glued into their tray, so that it's harder to get the dice out. I like being able to remove this piece. Same thing with this one, and in the Dice Boot, the clear one with our logo on, you can lift up the whole thing because there is no bottom. It depends on the table itself. Dice Towers, basically, if you can look in here, and this one's kind of hard to see, but you see the tilted top on the top of it, and then it comes out the bottom into the tray. Pretty much all Dice Towers are built the same way, although a few people add bells and whistles, and I mean that literally. They put little bells in them. Some people like them quiet, some people like them loud. I'm going to say that my favorite is the ones from DTV010. He has several different kinds of Dice Towers, and for a fairly good, hefty sum, he will design you your own Dice Tower. And so that's basically what the Dice Tower is. It's used in a lot of games. A lot of people like using it, but it's not used all the time in our games. That's because I find myself more and more using basically a tray. Now, some people simply can use, when they're playing a game, maybe they'll grab a box lid from a game and use that. And then that's perfectly fine. It's free. It comes with the game itself. But I really like this octagonal dice tray. You can buy these from many different companies. And I believe this one's from Copwell Dice. And basically, you throw the dice in and they stay in. It's really nice. It's not as cool as the Dice Tower, but it's very impressively useful. And so, usually when I play a game that involves a lot of dice, this is at one end of the table, and the Dice Tower's at the other end. The people who like the Dice Tower can use this, and the rest of the folks can use this. So that's it about Dice Towers. Now let's look at dice themselves. Here we have the main dice that most people know about, the six-sided die. And here's the white six-sided die. Most people have seen these, or maybe they've seen red or black dice. These are dice used in most games. But in reality, there's a whole ton of shapes and sizes of six-sided dice that are used in a variety of games. From all the way using these really tiny ones, which you can probably barely see there, and they're really, frankly, useless, except maybe as marking hits on different objects, but I really have a hard time seeing them, and I have decent eyesight. People with hard eyesight are going to have a real tough time with these. There's a few dice that are even maybe a little bit bigger than that, but they're still pretty small. It's the next size that I really enjoy. These dice come in a variety of colors. They usually come in a container that looks like this. This actually isn't a die container. It comes from the Container Store, but this is what dice containers look like, and you can fit a whole lot of these little dice in these. We call them a dice block. And these dice are fabulous for rolling for large armies. I use them for battleground fantasy warfare. Other than that, there's the age-old question. Do you like numbers or dots, pips? Well, I like pips, as long as it's six-sided die only. Do you like the hard, pointy corners, or do you like the rounded corners? These will bounce and roll more. Do you like wooden lighter dice, or do you like the heavier plastic dice? I even have these Nerf dice, which kind of bounce a little bit. My favorite dice that I pull out, though, are these large ones. I suppose this is about the largest I can get where I can still feel like I'm rolling it in my hand. And these dice, as well as these other little dice that I like, are made by Chessex, who in my opinion make the best dice. Very cool combination, dual color here, but with gold pips, easy to see. And when I have a critical roll to make, this is the die I'm going to roll. But like you can see, there's a ton of 6-sided dice that you can use. After 6-sided dice, this is your main group of dice that you would use after that. Your 4-sided die, then you have your 6-sided die, of course, your 8-sided die, your 10-sided die, your 12-sided die, and your 20-sided die. There's actually a 30-sided die and a 100-sided die. I don't have either one of those at this point in time, but I've used them in the past. But these are the 5 when we add in the 6-sided die. These are the 6 dice that you will see used in most games, mostly role-playing games, although board games like Formula Day make use of dice with multiple sides. The 4-sided die is very useful, very interesting, pyramid-shaped die, but it's also probably the worst one to step on. The 8-sided die is used in a few games that I know, but the 10-sided die is used in quite a few games, like Twilight Imperium, Fortress America. As you notice, I have 2 of them here because most sets of dice come with 2 of them, because one is with 10s and the other is with 1s. That way you can roll them together and get a percentage. Like here I roll a 70 and a 0, so this would be 70. 12-sided die is used in fewer games, and the 20-sided die, obviously, if you've kept up with games at all, is the basis of the 20D system, when it's used quite consistently in Dungeons & Dragons and many games of that genre, the 20-sided die. In fact, again, I have a big 20-sided die that I use for those very critical rolls. Then, I have my special dice. This die here, if you look at it carefully, it might look a little odd there as I rotate it because it is shaped very strangely. And I like dice that are shaped strangely. And this one, very few people are going to let me use it in the game, but I think it's pretty funny anyway. Then I have this one here, which is a single clear cube, but inside it are 3 tiny dice. Again, not very useful, but we've used this before in rolling stats that require 3 6-sided dice games. More useful, I suppose, is the 6-sided die inside a die. To me, it's not as satisfying as rolling 2 6-sided dice, but still, you can look in one and see the other. And it's a pretty neat idea. So neat that I also have the same thing with a 10-sided die. So this is technically my 100-sided die. I say the outside is the 10s digit, and the inside is the 1s digit. Then I have like a large, clear 12-sided die. I have a 10-sided die with dots instead of numbers, which is hideous, and no one uses it. A 6-sided die with points instead of where it goes concave instead of convex. Pretty neat. But here are my 4 favorite dice. All right, this one here is a 7-sided die. Now, it may look like the 6 and the 7 will land more often, and that's possibly very true, but it does seem to roll fairly evenly. If you see, it lands on one side of the pentagon part of it, and there it gives you a 4. And so I like that die a lot. But here's a 3-sided die. It's basically shaped like a football, and you can see 1, 2, or 3. It also has rock, paper, scissors symbols on it. Then there's the 5-sided die, which again is shaped with, there's 2 sides here, a 1 and a 5, and then each side of the triangle is one of the 5th sides. I like that one a lot. And then a 16-sided die. I think the 5-sided might be my favorite, the 5 and the 7, because 5 plus 7 equals 12, so you technically can still roll a 2 through 12 with these dice, although the distribution is a little bit different. Like I said, there's all different sorts of dice. There are other games that use a variety of ways to find random things, random events. There are cards, there's a cube tower, but in reality, dice is where it's at. I love dice, whether I'm using a dice cup, dice tower, dice ball, and I have tons of dice. Lots of dice. I don't even know when I'm going to use all these, but whenever I want a specific dice, I simply reach into this drawer. I've complained that games have too much dice or too much die rolling in them. And that's true sometimes. But I'll tell you this. At the Dice Tower, we still love our dice. And we have a lot of them.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.